Hello and welcome to Drive It, the motor magazine on DW. This time we test the Mercedes C43 AMG station wagon. Celebrate the World Endurance Championship season finale with Porsche in Bahrain. And go for a spin in the new Audi A8. Audi is rolling out its fourth generation A8 and breaking with quite a few traditions. An active driver? No need, at least not in certain situations like traffic jams. It's also thrown away the key. Test driver Jens Stratmann says it's often the attention to details that makes a car so interesting. We're all familiar with the electronic key fobs for locking and unlocking the car and starting the engine. Those are being replaced by smartphones. Other people can use it too, your partner, your children, and in the future, even delivery services, which can simply put whatever you've ordered into the trunk of the car.
In der Zukunft an Lieferdienste, damit die einfach die bestellten Waren in den Kofferraum ablegen können.
The new A8 also has more than 40 different assistance systems on board, and 4 systems supply them with information. Radar sensors, a front camera, ultrasound sensors, and a laser scanner allow the car to get a full picture of its surroundings. All the combustion engines are supported by electric drivetrains. A belt-driven starter generator is part of the standard mild hybrid system. At the rear, there's more to discover than just the snazzy lighting design. Jens explains that the naming strategy is new. This is the 55 TFSI Quattro with a 3-liter V6 engine. It's a gasoline-driven car with 340 horsepower. But with hybridization or electromobility, Audi is no longer putting the engine size on the car. The numbers do still indicate the vehicle's performance. Smaller numbers represent lower, larger numbers greater performance. That all goes back to the Chinese market, where this numbering has already been introduced. There's a choice between a 210 kilowatt diesel model and a 250 kilowatt strong gasoline model, which we tested. Thanks to the mild hybrid technology, fuel consumption has been reduced by 0.7 liters per 100 kilometers. At speeds between 55 and 160 kilometers per hour, the car is able to coast with the engine switched off, driving emissions free for 40 seconds at a time. Jens finds that, despite the Audi A8's considerable length, it handles well on winding roads. You barely notice how long the car is, thanks to the dynamic all-wheel steering. That allows the steering angles on the front and rear axles of the 5.17-meter vehicle to be set individually. In addition, the body sits on an intelligent active chassis. Along with the pre-sense 360-degree system, that enhances passive safety. Like this. Jens is impressed. He calls it a benchmark for the new Audi A8. In case of a collision, the vehicle raises itself up by 80 millimeters before impact. The headrests are adjusted and the seat belts tightened. That's certainly an innovation in safety. The sensors detect every movement around the car. The A8 has its watchful eye on more vulnerable road users, too. Jens explains that another highlight among the assistance systems is one that prevents you from opening the door when a bike rider is approaching from behind. The feature is on all the doors, which is likely to appeal to parents. The car can even see around corners. The intersection assistant senses vehicles approaching from the side long before they appear in the driver's field of view. The bike rider is shown in advance in the display, and the car stops if the driver doesn't react. With all that tech, the A8 sets new standards in active and passive safety, protecting everyone moving near it.
Der Audi A8
Jens says this premium luxury sedan is really spacious, including in the trunk. He's impressed by all the assistance systems and hopes that many of them are installed in Audi's other ranges.
Vielzahl demnächst auch in die anderen Fahrzeugklassen von Audi reinkommen.
The A8 starts at 90,000 euros in Germany. An additional 3,500 euros gets a longer wheelbase. And next year, the mild hybrid models are to be joined by a plug-in hybrid. As Cartista Rani Levstek points out, nearly all automakers have especially sporty vehicles in their ranges. With Mercedes, the letters AMG denote that class of car. Today, Ronnie's testing the C43 AMG station wagon. The C43 is basically the little brother of the C63 AMG, which costs about 17,000 euros more. What distinguishes the C43 is its powerful 3-liter V6 bi-turbo engine and its all-wheel drive. The list price in Germany starts at 61,850 euros. The greatest difference to the C63 AMG is in the engineering, since the C63 only comes with rear-wheel drive. And under the hood, it's got a 4-liter V8 bi-turbo engine with 70 kilowatts more power and a fuller sound. Even if the C43 loses a few points in comparison, its status as the strongest C-Class with all-wheel drive is uncontested. Its V6 twin-turbo engine accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 4.8 seconds and boasts a maximum speed of 250 kilometers per hour. Fuel consumption varies according to wheel size. Our test car uses an average of 8.1 liters per 100 kilometers, making the smaller AMG theoretically more fuel efficient than the larger model by 0.3 liters. A diamond-patterned grille and the AMG front apron with its distinctive air intakes are among the design elements that lend the exterior an even more dynamic character. In addition, the C43 has adopted much of its suspension technology from its big brother. The large brakes are a further indication of the car's high performance. The rear has an understated spoiler and a sport exhaust system with 2 twin tailpipes that not only add to the impressive sound, but help set aesthetic accents. The interior is decked out in black leather and microfiber with red stitching and accents. The center console boasts shiny design elements made of carbon fiber. The optional performance front seats offer optimal lateral support. Ronnie thinks the C43 AMG is a good choice if you want a C-Class as an AMG, but at a lower price. It doesn't have the C63 AMG's V8 bi-turbo engine, but this V6 is just as fun and much more fuel efficient.
Der macht genauso viel Spaß und ist sogar deutlich sparsamer unterwegs.
After the Grand Sport sedan and the Sports Tourer station wagon, Opel's rolling out yet another insignia model, the Country, a station wagon with higher clearance. The top-of-the-range model comes with a 2-liter, 191-kilowatt turbocharged engine and an 8-speed automatic transmission. The Country Tourer with the smallest gasoline engine lists at about 35,000 euros in Germany. 10 years after its first GS model, BMW Motorrad has thoroughly revamped its travel enduros. The updated design looks more dynamic, even downright masculine. The GS models have 70 kilowatts of power, suitable both for touring and off-roading. The F850 GS with more performance lists at 11,700 euros in Germany. The World Endurance Championship reached its finale. and Porsche bade farewell to the Le Mans Prototype 1 class at the 2017 6 Hours of Bahrain. It's a very emotional day for Porsche and a wonderful time. It's a highlight for his career as a Porsche driver, and he feels more pride and joy than sadness. Porsche had already nailed the World Championship title in the season's next to last race in Shanghai, but the team wasn't ready to rest on its laurels.
It's never easy. We obviously want to do the best that we can and hopefully challenge for the win.
Porsche's only competitor in the LMP1 class was Toyota.
Yeah, well, we're going into this race to try and win. We've won 4 races this year in car number 8.
But the competitors drove hard to the very end. Endurance racing demands everything from the teams. For Le Mans driver Hans-Joachim Stuck, endurance racing is good fun and teamwork. From the first driver to the last mechanic, everyone has to work together to win. He points out that after Formula One, the WEC is the technically and most demanding series. He has lots of fun with all the classes, LMP1, LMP2, GTE, and GT. They bring everything together with the latest technology. Even with the stress leading up to the start, the drivers still find time for their fans, who get a chance to collect autographs during what's known as the pit walk. This part of the racing event appeals to young and old alike. In the last 2 minutes of the qualifying rounds, Porsche managed to secure positions 1 and 3. Toyota claimed 2 and 4. Driver Neil Johnny was a bit surprised himself. They got quite a run for their money against Toyota in the qualifying and weren't expecting to earn their pole positions in the very last race. As the sun descends over Bahrain, the cars are off. The second Porsche takes the lead in the very first curve. With such big variations in performance between the 4 classes, many of the cars end up lapping each other, which makes it more exciting but can also complicate matters. Speed is of the essence for pit stops too. Teamwork and precision mean everything here. Tires have to be changed, and the tank filled before the car heads back onto the track. The race is head-to-head, with the 4 LMP1 cars constantly jockeying for position. As the hours tick past, the suspense rises in the Porsche pit. Flat tires and flattened cones on the track slowed the Porsches down. The number 8 Toyota takes home the victory, while Porsche lands second and third. Even so, the Porsche team has reason to celebrate. Their results from 3 years in the LMP1 are 3 Le Mans outright victories, plus 3 manufacturers and 3 drivers' world championship titles. Wolfgang Porsche sees it as an incredible success, thanks in part to a healthy dose of luck. He's sure his father would have been especially happy. He always said that they had to do motorsports because they got so many innovations and improvements from it, and so it pays off. Michel Steiner predicts they'll keep driving their 911s at least as intensively, and the GTs even more so. Porsche intends to reflect its product strategy for a move toward electric drive in motorsports as well. So they've decided, in addition to building the Mission E production car, to pursue motorsports and the Formula E electric auto racing. Mazda has its own way of doing things. Instead of finding an original name with a deeper meaning, it calls its smallest model simply 2. 2's 4th generation has been the number for car buyers to remember since 2014. And rather than sticking to well-trodden paths, it too goes its own way. Car tester Andre Zimmerman points to the engine as the major difference to other super minis. Mazda has completely dispensed with turbocharging, which, in his view, has the disadvantage of the gas pedal feeling a bit sluggish. That's because it doesn't achieve maximum torque until 4,000 RPMs. But an advantage is that since the air isn't compressed by the turbocharger, the engine's response is a little more direct. The specs are nothing to be ashamed of. The 2 accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in less than 10 seconds, unmatched by most other super minis with comparable engines. An average fuel consumption of 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers is also quite acceptable. Andre points out another of the Mazda 2's unique selling points, the lightweight construction. The entry-level model tips the scale at under a ton. Even with more equipment, the Mazda 2 is still 100 to 200 kilos lighter than its competitors. That means better fuel efficiency and handling. Mazda sums it all up with the term gram strategy, meaning it cuts every single unnecessary gram. And that adds up to over 100 kilograms saved. The 2's special engine technology carries the trade name Sky Active. The interior, on the other hand, isn't about cutting and saving at all. It hardly looks any different from the inside of higher range models. Immediately noticeable is the glossy black and metallic trim down the length of the dashboard. Andre especially likes the controls for the infotainment system, a rotating dial on the center console. Normally, he only sees these in higher-priced vehicles, such as the Audi A8 competition. Of course, the quality doesn't compare, but Andre thinks it's refreshing to see controls that don't resemble a smartphone. On the contrary. But car owners who just can't do without a touchscreen don't need to worry. The monitor can function that way too, but only when the car is not moving. Unfortunately, the Mazda 2 doesn't offer any way for a smartphone to connect with the car using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. But at least for a small charge, it offers a phone holder for when the driver uses it as a sat-nav. Andre is certain the Mazda 2 has enough unique selling points to pull ahead of the competition, and enough in common to be a factor in the compact class. For example, it pairs compact body proportions with a long wheelbase to make for a roomier interior. The 2 is ideal for relaxed driving without any unnecessary gadgetry, and that's just what many car buyers are looking for. The Mazda 2 lists for about 13,000 euros in Germany. The version we tested costs about 5,000 euros more, but there's no need to hide it. This is by no means a bad choice for a small car segment. Today, our classic car expert Christoph Bauer is taking an unusual American car out for a spin, the Chevrolet Corvair Monza Spider. Most American cars of its era boasted oversized bodies and a big engine up front, ideally a V8, but not the Corvair. Christoph says in the 1950s, sales of European cars rose massively in the U.S., especially those of the VW Beetle. It was the polar opposite of the kinds of vehicles American manufacturers had in their portfolios at the time. Suddenly, its design and technology was considered modern, progressive, even hip. But the American response to this demand was soon to arrive. It came in 1959 and was called the Chevrolet Corvair. By American standards, the Corvair was a compact, even though at almost 4.6 meters, it's longer than a Mercedes Ponton. And its 6-cylinder boxer engine with close to 100 horsepower didn't wow power-hungry American drivers that much either. But they were impressed by where the engine was located. The Chevy Corvair was the only American car of its day powered by a rear engine. Christoph says this exotic-looking car was surprisingly successful. More than 250,000 rolled off the assembly lines in the first year alone, and things got even better when Chevy introduced the Monza option, with a floor shift, bucket seats, larger hubcaps, and a bit more chrome. It was named after the Italian racing circuit.
Mit dem klangvollen Namen einer italienischen Rennstrecke, Monza.
Soon, Chevrolet was selling more Monzas than standard models. The only thing missing was a stronger engine. But not for long, as Christoph explains. In 1962, Chevrolet presented an additional option, the Spider. And it was truly sensational. The first series production car to feature a turbocharged engine. Its 150 horsepower propels the car from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 10.3 seconds, with a top speed of 165 kilometers an hour. The turbo boost is only really effective in a relatively small range, between 3,000 and 3,800 RPM, but then it really kicks in. To make sure drivers could master and keep an eye on this innovative technology, the dashboard features what Christoph figures is likely the first boost pressure indicator in automotive history, though it tops out at just 0.7 bar, which he finds touching.
0,7 bar. Süß.
But it wasn't just the Corvair's technology that set new standards. So did its design. This accent line, which wraps around the entire body, came to be known as the Corvair line. This design feature was later adopted by European manufacturers like BMW. The Corvair's design is a pleasant contrast to the American cars of the late 1950s with their huge tail fins and radiator grills. Its clean lines and purist design prove that sometimes less really is more. The Chevy Corvair was also versatile. In addition to the chic coupe, the Corvair was also available as a four-door sedan, a convertible, a station wagon, a pickup, and even a van, known as the Corvan. But Chevrolet offered the turbo engine exclusively in the coupe and convertible versions. The Monza Spider came with 5 round gauges and a brushed aluminum instrument panel, and a stick shift only, giving it the feel of a true blue American sports car. But Christoph says the Monza Spider's real highlight lies here, under the hood. Its 2.7-liter turbocharged engine, the first series production turbo in automotive history. 2 paddle wheels rotate inside this casing here, driven by the exhaust, and then press the air and gas mixture into the combustion chamber. This engine delivers up to 70 more horsepower than the normally aspirated one, and all for a bargain price. In its day, the Spider package cost just $297 extra. It looks great. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work so well. It took Porsche and Saab to finally tame the turbo. The Corvair's engine, transmission, and drive gears are wrapped in one compact package, the Unipack Power Team, though this construction doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Still, its turbo technology boosted Chevy's sales. In 1962, more than 300,000 Corvairs were sold, making it the most successful year in the model's history. But Christoph knows that there was a small problem with the Corvair, or those who drove it. Unlike the solid and steady front-engine boats Americans were used to driving, the rear-engine Corvair had a dynamic but somewhat temperamental driving style. And some people couldn't cope with that, especially on hard turns. The car's rear would jack up, causing the wheel to tuck under, the car to oversteer, and the rear end to swing out. To combat this effect, Chevrolet specified different pressures for the front and back tires. But many buyers thought this was just a misprint in their owner's manual, so the Corvair was headed for disaster.
Und so nimmt das Übel seinen Lauf.
Chevrolet soon found itself facing more than 100 lawsuits resulting from serious accidents. The automaker worked frantically to make the car safer, modifying the suspension and adding better drum brakes. But it was too little, too late. Christoph says the Corvair's fate was sealed in 1965 when consumer advocate and lawyer Ralph Nader published his book, Unsafe at Any Speed. In it, he called the Corvair the most dangerous vehicle on the road. Sales plummeted, and in 1969, production of the Corvair ceased entirely. Christoph thinks that's a real shame. For him, its trend-setting design and its status as the first turbocharged mass production model make the Corvair Monza Spider a milestone in automotive history.
Der Corvair Monza Spider definitiv ein Meilenstein der Automobilgeschichte.
In 1965, the Corvair range got a new body, and the turbocharged engine was no longer offered. Quickly and quietly, Chevrolet relegated its pioneering series production turbo model to the history books. Next time on Drive It, we test Mitsubishi's new coupe-style SUV, the Eclipse Cross. And head to California to take a look around the Los Angeles Auto Show.